Hello and thanks for joining me. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Run Right Reads tagged me on the Muppets Book Tag, and I kind of fell behind on videos and hadn't had a chance to respond to that yet, but I had a little time today and thought it would be a good time to get a response up. So the Muppets Book Tag, what this is basically the Muppets characters and their personalities and then transposed over into books. And it was originally created by Bridget O, and like I said, I was tagged by Run Right Reads. So let's get to it. The first one is the Swedish Chef, book that looked good but left a bad taste in your mouth. So book that looked good but left a bad taste in your mouth. I'm going to say Ilium by Dan Simmons. I've mentioned this book before. It's got a lot of fans, and it had everything that I thought I was going to really like. It had AI, science fiction, it had AI, it had time travel, it had Greek gods, it had the Trojan War. It just had, everything that I thought I was going to love, but I just didn't. I didn't connect with it for various reasons, and I explained it more in the chat that I did on it. So I don't think I'll go into it here, but if you're curious, you can check out the chat where I talked about it a little bit more. But it just didn't work for me. Number 2, Fozzie Bear, a book you couldn't help but laugh at, the jokes, sarcasm, etc. Yeah, so let me see. I'm gonna say, pull up the cover so you can have a picture. A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. This is just laugh out loud funny to me. It's an eccentric character, takes place in New Orleans. With a whole cast of eccentric characters, actually. Some of it in dialogue, in the dialect, of New Orleans. Just a whole lot of fun. I read this and laughed out loud. I was in a little book club at the time, a small group of people that, we had a little book club and we read it, and, some liked it, some didn't. I was one that loved it. Then a couple of years later, I read it again and still was laughing out loud. I was reading this on a plane and apparently laughing because the person next to me said, must really reading a funny book. Oh yeah, it's so funny. I need to reread this again sometime, just for laughs, because it's just the characters in it are just hilarious. I lived in New Orleans for a couple of years, so I don't know if that impacts how I view it and why some people in the book club didn't like it maybe as much, but I did love it. So number 3, Bunsen, Honeydew, PhD, and Beaker. What book had you feeling at least a little bit smarter by the time you were done with it? Whether it's a nonfiction, inspiration, self-help, or the characters were such bumbling idiots they make you feel that much more intelligent. Okay, well, I'm going to go with the first option, that I felt a little bit more informed following after reading it. I'm going to say The Horse, the Wheel, and Language. How Bronze Age Writers from the Eurasian Steppes Shaped the Modern World by David W. Anthony. I read this in a library book, and there's the picture of the thumb that I did when I did the chat on it. I will also link to the chat below if you're interested to hear more about it. But what this is about is the Proto-Indo-European speaking people. It's an exploration of who they were, where they lived, when they lived. This Proto-European language is the language that is the parent language of almost all of the languages of Europe, as well as some in the Middle East, and well as India, some in India, and even far western China. Some of them are now extinct, but the different language roots, English being one of them, all go back to this one language that originated in the steppes of Eurasia back many thousands of years ago. And this book explored that through linguistics, and then a lengthy, I think this author is actually an archaeologist, so a lot of archaeology, a lot of details around pottery and stuff. And so while I took a lot away from the book, and I think that I learned a lot from the book, and felt, a bit smart after I had finished it all. Part of it was a bit tedious to get through just because there was a lot of sort of academic details around the archaeology. And so anyway, that's think that's what made me feel smarter, was getting through that book and then actually understanding it. And anytime I hear about the Proto-Indo-European or the Indo-European languages, I have a much better understanding. So, yeah. All right, number 4, Crazy Harry. Name a book that at least one of the characters and or something about the book drove you crazy. Yeah, so it's another one I'm going to answer. It's another one that I've mentioned before on my channel. It's another science fiction book that is popular with some people, but it just didn't completely work with me. Part of it did, part of it didn't. Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is set in the future in our solar system. There's a conflict between Earth, Mars, and then the outer belt, I guess. It's sort of set up like, though, a nationalistic sort of struggle with the space being the ocean, and just something about the conflict I never quite bought into. And so since that's what a large part of the story revolves around, I really wanted to, but I just couldn't, and that just kind of drove me a little bit bats. So yeah, Leviathan Wakes. So number 5, Janice. Name an easy read that gave you good vibes, good feelings. Well, easy read, I don't think that this was an easy read necessarily. Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. But it gave me really good vibes. This is a 1937 vintage / considered by many to be classic science fiction, British science fiction. This is a book with no dialogue. It's a mental journey that is taken by our narrator to other planets, other dimensions, other universes, and it just ultimately is cosmic. It's another one of these books that those who like it, really do like it, and then those who don't, feel like it's a slog. It is rather slow. It's philosophical. So I wouldn't really, to me, it wasn't that difficult of a read, but when I read reviews of it, some people find it difficult to read if it's just not your thing, I think. But interestingly, though, I think it's Arthur C. Clarke and C.S. Lewis both mentioned this work, I think. Might have that wrong, but anyway, it's highly regarded. It's considered by many to be a work of science fiction, classic science fiction at this point. So yeah, Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. I'm hoping to get this reread. This is on my short list of things to reread this December during my month of rereading. So yeah, that was Janice. So number 6, Statler and Waldorf. A book or series that you loved that was turned into a movie or TV show that was a total letdown. Well, I'm going to say Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. This was not the TV show is not really a total letdown. I watched the first season on BBC America. It's just that the way they did the TV show, they have Dirk Gently being real Doctor Who, real spastic, and I just think that the director, the producers of the TV show are really trying to copy the success of the Doctor Who, and it just that annoys me. But I still like the show. I actually still like the show. It's the second season's coming up. It's got Elijah Wood in it. Can't think of the British guy who plays Dirk Gently. But yeah, the show itself is good. It's just that I never pictured Dirk Gently to be the way he's presented in the TV show, which is kind of like this hyperactive, spastic, Doctor Who-ish type character. So yeah, this is also on my short list to reread this December. All right, so yeah, number 7, Walter. That's tags. I don't know who to tag. I never know who to tag on stuff anymore. Especially now. This tag is like two weeks old at least since I was tagged on it. So I'm not sure who all has been tagged on it. Richardson Reads. If you haven't done the tag, if you think it'd be fun, I'd love to hear your responses. crflamesfan, same thing. I know Peg from Book Reviews from Peg. You don't normally do full tags, but if any of these questions appeal to you, love to hear your response on on them. Yeah, so that's this tag. I have another tag that I'm behind on that I hope to get responses up over the next couple of days this weekend. I also have an opera coming up tomorrow. I will be hearing Samson and Delilah by Camille Saint-Saëns. So, Samson and Delilah is coming up tomorrow, so I should have a chat on that coming up following that at some point, opera chat. So, anyway, until next time, take care.